Good morning and welcome to Recipe for Success. My name is Nancy Giacalone, and I am glad to be back after a 2-week hiatus. I was at attending live events, and you may notice that there is an additional little moniker attached to my name. I was recently named the 2023 Broker of the Year by Benefits Pro magazine, which was a huge honor in my industry. But I am back in the office, back in the quote unquote makeshift podcast studio, and I'm really happy to have Brian Scott join me today. Brian is the founder of a company called Les Tours de Spice. There's a number of things that appealed to me about that. I ran into Brian when another one of my guests had posted something about it, and I'm like, oh, I need to find out more about that. So after a little bit of arm twisting, I was able to convince him that he needed to be a guest on my show. So I'm really excited to have you here this morning, Brian. We're going to talk about marketing and branding, but one of the really cool things was I always ask people to send me their headshot and bio, et cetera, which he did. And he also sent me this document that he shares with his outside sales team, and it's called Your Recipe for Success. I'm like, well, this is a match made in heaven. So thanks so much, Brian. I would love for you to kick it off by telling the audience a little bit about yourself and your career history.
Sure, absolutely. Well, I appreciate you having me here this morning, Nancy. I've been looking forward to our conversation. So my career started when I was 18. I actually finished high school. I had a couple athletic scholarships. They weren't full rides, so I thought I'd work for a year and save up some money and then pursue my education. And I started off selling promotional products for a distributor company, and I liked it so much, and I actually did quite well at it. The first year, I decided to stick at it. And I did that for about 6 years, working as an employee for a distributor company. And then I thought I wanted to do my own deal, and I started my own company in 1986. And I grew it to about 55 employees, doing close to $15 million in sales. And I sold that company after 13 years. Had a non-compete for a few years, so I stayed out of the industry and then jumped back into it 3 years later and did it all over again. And after I sold that company, after about 13 years, something magical about 13 years, I guess, my wife and I were sort of pondering what to do, what our next venture would be. And we've always both been very entrepreneurial in what we've done. So I, understanding the promotional product world and the distributor channel, and my wife Cynthia being an amazing cook and understanding the spice world, we thought, why don't we offer spice to the promotional product distributor world and brand it with some very clever packaging. So we launched Les Tours de Spice about 4 years ago, and we've had double-digit growth since we've launched. So I'm having a lot of fun doing it.
Very cool. So I just have to ask, because of the name, are you a cyclist?
Yes, triathlete.
Yes, I knew you were a triathlete, but I'm like, okay, well, no one's going to name it Les Tours de Spice unless they're a cycling fan and will probably watch the Tour de France at some point in time.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Anyway, I figured there might be just a tiny little tie in there.
Yeah.
Okay, so you and your wife start thinking about this, and she's like, again, I'm just trying to get inside your heads. You're in the kitchen, and it's like, well, let's use spices. Tell me a little bit more about how that germinated into a full blown idea.
Yeah. So spices are really just the medium for what we do. And we work with a number of ingredients: spices, blends, teas, coffees, dehydrated fruits. We have thousands of different ingredients and fills that we put into our custom branded packaging. But what we really wanted to do was, in our industry, it's very typical to take a logo and put it on a promotional, use it as an out. What we wanted to do was use it as a real true marketing communication piece, where we would use the packaging to convey a story, convey the brand message, have strong calls to action, push traffic to websites with QR codes. So we do some really clever, creative design work that goes on the packaging that reflects the organization's brand and message. And nobody in our industry was really doing that, or certainly not doing it well. So we thought we can do that. When I had a distributor company, we had very large design departments where we had writers, creative types that would create copy and design all day long. So we thought, why don't we offer that to distributors as a supplier, which hasn't really been done before. But so we're working on behalf of the distributor to help make them look good with some really clever, customized, creative packaging.
Well, I think I mean, I just came back from a conference where there was a big, the big hall with all the vendors in the booths, and they all have their trademarked swag that they give out. And I think we've seen so much of the same thing for so many years. I mean, there's just, I couldn't, some of it, I'm like, I can't have another one of those. Thank you very much. Or it's a very basic chocolate bar that has their, the wrapper on it. And I'm like, oh, this isn't even very good. So it never feels to me like a true reflection of them and their core values and what they're trying to get across, which is one of the things I found so interesting, because anytime I have a guest on, I'm a serious stalker. I mean, I'm all over your website. I'm reading everything about it. I'm looking at, the projects you've done. And I think it's really cool how you really incorporate the brand message into what you're doing.
Right. Yeah, we do a lot of, we look at sort of what differentiates an organization, what their core brand message would be. And we'll select a spice or an ingredient that would reflect that. So for example, one distributor we worked with was doing a project with Barrett Jackson. So car auction, very, very high end, all about detail, finishing touches. Those are all the things that are really important to a true car enthusiast. Correct. So we did one of our promotional spice tubes in a nice decorative sleeve, and we used a spice called Fleur de Sel, which is a very
familiar with it.
very, very high-end finishing salt, right? So, finishing touches, finishing detail on a car. So we tried to kind of marry the two together, and then graphically and visually, we show that as well. So the spice Fleur, it's a finishing salt, finishing touches on, classic vintage automobiles, very important. So that's sort of how we connected the spice with one of their core messages.
That's really cool. I think that is because I was trying to figure out, like, how do you get in their head, and how do you take the spices and the ingredients that you have and then pull that message all the way through? Because I was, of course, thinking, well, how could I do that?
Right.
I have no idea. I have no idea what spices or food would correlate to employee benefits or insurance or my core values or any of that. But I'm like, well, this is cool. I try to kind of see if I can figure out a way to do it, but very, very fun.
Yeah. So something like insurance, it's obviously all about peace of mind. That's really what you're trying to create. So, we've done themes that are sort of based on the relax theme, and we'll use something like a nice Rooibos tea that has relaxational properties. So we can often take a property from the tea or the spice or the coffee or whatever we happen to be packaging and leverage that in the message.
That's really cool. As soon as you start talking about it, then my little wheels start turning, and I think, okay, well, one of the things that I heavily promote because I do employee benefits, is I really encourage people to take better care of themselves and eat well. And there's a number of spices that have healing properties, such as turmeric. Things like that could definitely be incorporated in something like that. So you've recently branched out into soup, teas, and seasonal packages such as grilling gifts. That one I thought was really cool as well. Are you seeing an increased demand for food items and branding? Uh-oh, I think we just lost Brian for a minute. Oh, there he comes.
Sorry, Nancy. Yeah, we lost connection there.
That's okay. I don't. Did you hear my question or not?
No, I did not.
Okay, that's okay. I was mentioning when you were talking about insurance, I was thinking about, again, from employee benefits standpoint, is that we do a lot of work around trying to encourage wellness and
Yes.
taking care of yourself and well-being. And there are a number of spices, of course, that are have healing properties, such as turmeric, etc. So there would be fun ways to incorporate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, wellness programs. Yeah, nothing better than spice, right? Yeah,
Yeah,
there's so many
exactly.
micronutrients, and there's so much nutrition, packed into to spice. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's great for that type of application.
Yeah, very fun. So you had mentioned this earlier, but you've recently branched into adding other food items, such as teas, soups. We're coming up onto summer. You have grilling gifts. Are you seeing an increased demand for food items when it comes to branding?
Yeah, it's interesting, is and I think a lot of it can be contributed to COVID, just people staying at home, cooking more, and I think that triggered sort of the interest in food, and in creating that experience in the home. So yeah, there's been a big uptick, and I think just people having been at home, captive, experiencing food a little more in the kitchen has been quite prevalent for sure.
Um, I again, I think this might have been on your website, but one of the quotes I took from your website was, "The riches are in the niches." I thought that was such a great statement. I'm like, I really like that. What do you mean by that?
Well, what I try to do is, we work very closely with our distributor partners, and a lot of them take a very sort of shotgun approach to what they do. They're targeting multiple industry sectors. And when I was a distributor, what I tried to do was find our sweet spot, in a spot that nobody was really targeting. And so we created a niche in the health and safety sector, where we designed safety promotion, safety communication programs that utilized our medium, and nobody was really banging on that door. So we carved out a niche in the health and safety sector, helping companies reduce their GL and worker comp costs through educating and promoting safety to their employees. So that'd be an example of sort of a niche, but that's what I try to encourage our distributors to do, is to not be like everybody else, but find your own lane, find what you stand for, find what you believe in, and chase it with a vengeance. So
Sure.
yeah.
Um, I do some, well, I do a lot of marketing and branding work. And one of the things that I've learned over the years, as taught to me by numerous coaches and mentors, is that to really be successful is you don't need to reach everybody. You
Right.
need to reach the people that believe what you believe.
Yeah.
And if you can reach those people, you're going to be wildly successful. It's
Yeah.
another way of saying what you're saying, but uh, um, when I work with younger agents and they're like, "Well, I want to help everybody. I want to talk to everybody." I'm like, "You can't help everybody. You don't
Right.
have the skill set. So who are you going to help now?"
Yeah.
You can broaden that and you can change your channel, but focus on who you can help most based on your skill set and what you have
Yeah.
to offer.
And who wants to be helped? Um,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly.
And we have a great solution, but it's not for everybody. And
Hmm.
the sooner we can weed out those that align with it and those that don't, then the quicker we'll achieve what we set out to do.
Yeah, exactly. Um, since I'm considered to be the small business advocate in my industry. It really wasn't a title or moniker I was going after, because I do work in all sectors, but the small business sector for benefits was being severely overlooked by the larger brokerages. They didn't have the time; they'd put it in a service center, um, etc. But so I know, when of course, when I'm looking at your website, I see major brands promoted on there. But can your lines be used to promote or buy small businesses as well?
Absolutely. Yeah, we do a lot of very small runs, and that's one of our advantages as well, is that we cost effectively can produce a customized product in very small quantities at very little cost. So yeah, we definitely want to cater to that sector. We're not a big player in our industry. I think we're probably the most creative player in our industry, but we're certainly size wise we're not. So we want to be able to cater to the small, mid-size organizations and some of the larger ones too. But yeah,
Well, of course, and yeah, same as, I mean, like you say, it feels very, although our industries are completely different, it feels like we have similar attitudes about that, in that you want to be able to take care of, again, those people that believe what you believe and that want what you have, regardless of their size. So
right.
I think that makes a ton of sense.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't picked up on it yet, Brian has a slight accent to those of us in the US. In case you're wondering, he is Canadian. He is located in Canada. You said just outside of Ontario?
Yes. Hometown of Research in Motion, RIM Blackberry.
Oh, okay, really?
Yeah. Yeah. So RIM is a
It's my
hometown.
favorite phone ever.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
But we know that story.
Yes, it was a sad day when I finally had to give up my BlackBerry. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah.
I think there were a lot of people that felt the same way.
Yeah.
I mean, phones have come a long way since then, and we love them, but there was nothing like the BlackBerry.
Yeah. Yeah. They did well.
It was special. Okay, so another thing that I have learned about you is you are an avid endurance athlete and you tend to coach, well, not tend to, you do coach triathletes on a part time basis. I'd love to know more about that part of your life.
Yeah. So athletics have always been a very important part of my life. That's probably what kept me going to school was to be able to compete on the different school teams and so forth. But yeah, from grade 4, I've been running. I love to race. I love to compete. The longer the race, the better. So, I've done marathons, Ironman races, cross country ski racing, open water swim racing. Love that aspect of just challenging your mind and body and doing that. And my wife as well. We do it together. It's endurance sports is a very selfish sport. So if your wife is involved in it, great, because it means a lot of time away and out training and stuff like that. So.
Well,
But,
I
yeah,
am married. I am married to a runner and a cyclist. So
okay.
yes, I understand it avidly. My son is also very good at both. I'm good at neither, but I enjoy cheering them on. So
Yeah, yeah,
I used to be able to run, but the old hips have said no more of that. But my ideal distance was a 5K. So that was, you were just barely even getting warmed up at that point. But that was good for me.
yeah, yeah. But yeah, sports is fun. It teaches you a lot. You'll learn a lot, and I've been doing some coaching, just helping people that want to do their first Ironman. I love that, working with somebody brand new that just wants to learn and are committed to a goal. Yeah.
I've noticed a trend with a lot of the salespeople or marketing people that I deal with is that they do tend to be athletes, and I think it is that common tie of the competitive nature of challenging yourself to do better. What, do you have any thoughts on that?
Well, salespeople have to have thick skin. And to be a good athlete, you have to have thick skin because you get beaten up a lot, you get beat a lot, injuries. So you just have to keep picking yourself up and going at it. And no different than business. You take your shots along the way, and you just have to dust yourself off and keep the eye on the prize.
Yeah, I just it was funny because my last guest before I went on my little break, he was super successful salesperson, marketing, all that good stuff, and he same thing. He was an avid cyclist, and you know teaches spin classes in his spare time. I'm like, when do you have spare time? But I that has been a theme that I have noticed quite a bit is that the the more successful salespeople tend to have either an athletic background or something that drives them to be able to, like you say, weather the bumps a little bit easier.
Yeah. And the strategy for being a good athlete is the same as being the strategy for being a good business person. It's knowing, where you're at, where you want to go, what do you need to get there, and how do you know when you get there? What are the
Right.
metrics, the measurements that you're chasing?
And if you trip and fall down, you've got to get back up.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, that is one of the key things I think to being successful in business as well, is being able to dust yourself off and say, "Okay, let's do it again."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've had, not that your husband would like to hear this, but yeah, I've been hit by a car at 80 miles an hour
Oh,
and went off the front windshield. And yeah, so a year later, I was back at it. But yeah, you have to take your knocks along the way.
you do. Well, my husband did hit his he did go off his bike at 40 miles an hour going downhill and hit the guardrail with his face, so that was fun. but
Ouch. Ouch.
but he still rides and loves it. But it is one of those things. Whatever sport you compete in, whether it's auto racing or cycling or running, there are times when you are going to fail. There are times when you're going to get hurt, and
Yeah,
it's what you do next that makes the difference as far as whether you succeed or not.
yeah. But what you learn through that whole process,
Absolutely.
and that it's never, for me, it's never about winning races. It's about the journey, really.
Hmm.
That's what makes it fun. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so this should be easy for you, but we are on to my fun part of the show, which is my five burning questions. So, you mentioned your wife was a good cook, so I'm hoping you cook a little bit too. But what's your absolute favorite food in the world, and can you cook it?
Oh, my favorite food. Well, I'm a pretty meat and potatoes guy, so I don't have a real exciting answer for you, but a good prime rib, good baked potato, roasted carrots with our barbecue rub. Yeah, that's what I enjoy. Just the basics.
But well done.
What I can cook is craft dinner, mac and cheese. I apparently make the best craft dinner, but my wife Cynthia, she likes to keep me out of the kitchen, so I respect that.
I'm sure you do.
I do.
I'm sure you do.
I do.
So, what's the one character trait that you admire most in other people, and why?
Oh, I think people that are open-minded, that they're open to different thinking. Um, yeah, I think that. People, I find it challenging when people are very closed-minded. So I'd have to say the opposite of that. That I really enjoy people that are very open-minded in their thinking, that they're open to new ideas. Yeah, exploring different thoughts. Yeah, so probably just being open-minded in nature.
I like that. So, if I flip the mirror to you, what's the character trait in yourself you're most proud of, and why?
Oh, I guess my sheer stubbornness. I, I'm very persistent when I have a goal or an objective. I typically don't stop till I get it or get really really close. So yeah, I tend to have a very stubborn personality from the standpoint of trying to achieve what I set out to do.
We'll just call you tenacious.
Tenacious, yeah, yeah,
I like it.
yeah.
Um, what's one thing that businesses can do to differentiate themselves in today's market where we're just saturated with advertisements, video, just everything? It just feels like there's a lot of white noise. So how does a business set themselves apart a little bit?
Yeah, I get the sense that business has sort of lost that personal touch. That so much of it is done online, through email. Yeah, I just find getting out and being visible with people and shaking hands and just doing those relationship building things that are fun to do with people. I think just builds a stronger bond. I think less of that exists today than it did.
Well, I agree with you. COVID definitely impacted us pretty dramatically in that standpoint. And that we used to always go see our clients, and then of course we couldn't for a while. And this year, when I've talked to them, I'm like, "Well, I'm going to come out and we'll go over this in person." And they're like, "You're going to come see me?" Like, "Yeah, I want to sit down with you. I want to reconnect because it's nice to be able to have these type of conversations, but it doesn't compare to being in the same room across the table from another person."
Right. yeah, you miss out on the body language and, all those cues that are important, to read into, a conversation discussion.
Particularly when you're in a consultative situation or a sales situation, you really need to be able to kind of take in the environment. What do they have on their desk? What's on their walls? How are are they fidgeting? You can't always see that on a
Yeah.
Zoom call.
Yeah, truly. Yeah,
So
absolutely. Yeah.
I agree with you on that. All
Yeah.
right, this is always a fun one. So, what's your secret talent or something people would be surprised to learn about you?
Oh, well, not many people know that I used to race cars.
Me too.
Yeah,
Yeah.
very cool. What
What
type?
kind of cars did you race?
Formula 2000,
Oh,
IROC
really?
cars, and then I graduated from that to racing go-karts. So I found it a little more affordable. They're easier to fix when you crash them,
Yep.
uh, unlike Formula 2s and IROCs. So,
Well, I didn't do anything that fancy. I simply did some drag racing and autocrossing, but I like to go fast in a car. It's
you like
still
to go
it's
fast,
still
yeah.
it's still a little bit of a problem for me. I try to keep it under control. So, what's your favorite like auto racing on TV or to attend?
Oh,
What's your favorite?
I like NASCAR. I like Indy. That's coming up this weekend, the 500. So I like Indy. A little bit of Formula. I find Formula a little predictable, but
Especially this
NASCAR,
year.
yeah, yeah. But NASCAR, Indy racing, yeah, I love that stuff.
Fun, fun. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, so who's the one person, famous or not famous, living or dead, that you would most like to meet in real life and sit down and have a cup of coffee and a conversation with?
Oh, that's a good question. Um, Probably Malcolm Gladwell.
Okay, and why?
Um, I like his books. I love, just the deep dive that he does in exploring how people, think and perform and operate. I just like his material. He, as an individual, he's actually from, I won't say my hometown, but he lived about 20 miles from where I lived. And so when I used to run cross country in high school, I raced against him. So it was kind of fun. He's actually a very good runner. But yeah, I think Malcolm Gladwell would be a very interesting man to have a conversation with. I just think the insight that he could provide on a very wide range of subject matter would be interesting, fascinating.
I like that. Okay, so we've talked about La Tour de Spice. We need to circle back to that because maybe somebody is listening right now and they're thinking, wow, that's a great idea. I should look into that. Now, I know you don't sell directly, you go through distributors, but how would somebody find a distributor that handles your product line so that they could get connected?
Yeah. So if they just Google promotional product distributor in their given area, one would come up, or reach out to me and let me know what city you're in, and I can certainly you know find one that represents our line that would do a great job, learning what you're trying to achieve and providing you with a viable solution.
Awesome. Well, I pretty much already know what our what's going to be included in our Christmas gifts this year. So
Yeah.
this this will be really fun to come up with a unique and creative way to reach people because again, I'm very passionate about food and I've just never seen anything that resonated with me from a food standpoint, but this really does because I really love that. Like I say, going back to that, you just pull the brand all the way through. Um, I'm a big fan of the Story Brand series, and I feel like you're doing that your with your promotional materials.
Yeah. And we try to create the experience, which makes the
Yep.
brand a little
Yep.
stickier, for sure. So we do a lot of recipe design and different things like that. So when somebody receives that gift, they know what to do with that particular
I
spice
love
or
it.
ingredient. Yeah.
Well, I thank you so much for your time this morning, Brian. Again, for anybody, Les Tours de Spice, go to their website. I think there's something on there where they can connect with distributors. We all know distributors in our area, they call us all the time. So, but make sure you find one that handles his product. If you can't reach out to Brian directly, you can also reach out to me and I'll put you in touch with him. This again is a very different way, unique way to set yourself apart. This is a good time of year to start planning for your holiday gift giving. So here's a great idea for you.
Great. Well, thank you, Nancy. Yeah.
Thank you. And I will see all of the rest of you back here again, same time next week. Thanks again. Bye bye.
Thank you.